2 accounts are a conflict. 3 accounts make you a specialist agency. I love that quote. And I got a question on agency conflict of interest for small and mid-sized agencies that you will want to stick around for in this episode. Hey, welcome to 3 Takeaways, your agency new business video series, where we focus on one new business category and give you 3 takeaways to help improve your new business program. Hey, if you're new here, RSW is an outsourced business development firm that works with ad agencies, PR firms, and marketing services firms to get more quality at-bats and ultimately get clients closer to close. So hey, reach out if you're an agency that needs business development help. Contact info in the description below. All right, let's get to it. I got a question from a longtime fan of the series, Dan from Baltimore, Maryland. Thank you, Dan. And this is what Dan asks. Something I'd love to hear more about is the use of client work to land prospects from the same industry. Is it okay? Permissions? Beg for forgiveness? All right, well, the first thing I thought was in response, well, yeah, Dan, agencies do that all the time with case studies, right? But that's not really what he meant. So let's dig into this topic a little bit. First thing to point out, I'm just gonna leave holding company agencies out of this conversation. I mean, potential conflicts get locked out or resolved early in the process in those situations, right? So instead I'm talking about those smaller agencies, mid-sized agencies, and to Dan's question, is it okay to share that client work with prospects in the same industry? So the first thing to ask, of course, is there a non-compete in place? Leaves it kind of cut and dried, but that leads to your first takeaway, and it's this. Don't sign a non-compete and do have a conflict policy in place. Now look, in reality, this will not always work, right? I mean, you will have to sign that non-compete to work with that client, but you should have a policy in place regardless, because in lieu of signing that non-compete, it's at least, it will give you an alternative that you can offer that gives you some leeway and doesn't completely constrict your ability to work in that category. And a bonus takeaway here, if a non-compete is on the table with a new client, think really carefully. If you're in a certain geographic market, can you charge them what you need to justify that exclusivity? I mean, it can be tough. All right, well, let's say though that you've already signed that non-compete. And more often with small to mid-sized agencies, it's understood just generally, whether you signed it or not, you're not gonna be going after the competition. Well, it turns kind of into a gray area though, right? I mean, there are less AORs today, there's more project work, and how broad a definition does a client consider a conflict? So you have those clients that are sacrosanct. You're not gonna go after anyone even close to what they do or who they are because they're just too important. But then you have those clients on the other side that they do not care at all, go for it.
Do whatever you want.
Well, it's that middle ground in between that Dan's really asking about though here, right? And in those cases, it's typically that geographically, you're probably not, you're not gonna be going after a direct competitor in their backyard, but there may not be a formal non-compete, so a little tough, right? Well, here's your second takeaway. You can ask or beg for forgiveness, which I guess could be 2 different takeaways.
Hell, I guess it is.
But listen, if ethically you can plainly see that yes, this is similar work, but there is no direct competition, maybe in a different geo, for example, you can ask that client and explain, and especially if you have that type of relationship with your client. Or you can just prospect those companies outside client geo again, for example, and one-on-one in conversations with that prospect, for example. Now, you're not gonna put things like this, information like this on your site, not in your content or in like an email blast, but with that one-on-one prospect describing the work. Possibly name dropping the client, just to show them, that POV, and then beg forgiveness if it ever comes up with your client.
Please forgive me.
But even that might feel a little like, I don't know. So the best way to handle really is your third takeaway. If you got this new client, would your existing client be unhappy about it? You gotta kind of ask yourself that question. Now, it really is best to establish all of this, things like this in these situations, establish it up front, wherever possible, especially because so much of it is situational and case by case. Okay, that is it for today. Thanks for watching 3 Takeaways. Lots of new business content at RSWUS.com. And hey, we're here to help you drive new business. Reach out to us. All right, see you next time.